Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited to have a return guest. I have Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Dr. Fuhrman, how you doing?
Doing great.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, uh, I love your videos. I love everything you're putting out there. There's a common question today, or something I want to talk about today, and that is protein. Because I love to exercise, and I'm a young guy. I consider myself a young guy, and people always say, "Where do you get your protein from on a vegan diet?" That's the big question. And after doing this for a long time, I know how to answer it. But I want to talk about this topic today because you often talk about the average vegan's getting a certain amount of protein, and it's not the same as what meat eaters are getting. So I want to get into this a little. So before we get started on this, is there anything you want to open up with before I ask you my questions?
No, except for I've also been talking about protein, especially with regard to the British UK vegan studies showing vegans had more osteoporosis than meat eaters did. And also we're talking about the Adventist Seven-Day Adventist Health. There's two recent release that showed that and the Adventist Health study too is such an important study because there's not as many confounding variables. It's a very accurate study. It showed that the vegans had lower rates of heart disease and cancer of all types, but they had higher rates of 13% higher risk of dementia, 16% higher risk of strokes, and 37% higher risk of Parkinson's disease. So I've been discussing this I've been discussing this for decades, but people don't take it seriously.
So, can a low protein diet, whether you're a vegan or not vegan, is low protein associated with osteoporosis?
Yes, it is. If you have too little protein. So that would be that's my concern with raw food diets. People eating too much fruit, eating like all fruit, and not having because obviously the combination of green vegetables, beans, and nuts and seeds give you the best protein exposure. So I'm saying I looked at the data from the British study where they found that obviously vegans were thinner, less muscle mass, but less bone mass and more hip fractures. And when I compared the protein content to the vegan diet, it was more like a starch-based vegan diet, where they eat a lot of, bread and, potatoes and stuff. Their protein content was about 45 grams per 1,600 calories, 45 grams of protein. Whereas I analyzed the Nutritarian diet, which includes about, 2 ounces of nuts and, and about a cup of beans, whatever, So we've analyzed the next door with the same amount of calories, 1,600 calories, had double the amount of protein, had 84 grams of protein for 1,600 calories. So I'm saying the Nutritarian diet, the way I design a vegan diet to include, fruits and beans and, variety of foods, it gives people about 50 grams of protein per 1,000 calories. So if you're like LeBron James and you're 6'10" and you need, 3,500 calories, you need 4,000 calories, you're getting 75 grams. If you're getting 50 grams per 1,000 calories, at 4,000 calories, you get 200 grams of protein. That's tons. If you're needing 2,000 calories, you're still getting 100 grams of protein. So you're getting about 1.2 to 1.3 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. So it's giving you the perfect amount of protein, recommended even for toddlers and the elderly or athletes. But the concern is that that vegans, if they don't, because we're always teaching the fact that there's more than a dozen studies that show that increasing animal protein in the diet causes premature lower lifespan, and increasing plant protein causes longer life. So we want to be that sweet spot. We want to have adequate protein, but we want it to come from plants, not from animal products. And also because what comes along for the ride with foods that are rich in plant protein are phytochemicals that protect you against cancer. But so I'm saying that, not only was the UK study on vegans, their calcium content was low of the vegans. In other words, their calcium content was under 500 milligrams of calcium a day, whereas on the Nutritarian diet, because we're using beans, nuts, and seeds, and a lot of green vegetables, it came out 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. So it had double the protein, double the calcium, just due to the design of the diet.
Well, the calcium does the calcium even matter? Because a raw foodist would be getting a high amount of calcium, but lower protein, let's say. So, like, what does how important is the calcium if the protein's low? Is my question.
That's kind of another vegan myth. It's like and I wrote that in my book in 2004, Eat to Live, but it was incorrect. It was that certainly animal products, which acidify the body and they acid tide, and the body has to leach out basic mineral salts from the bones, and your calcium needs go up as your animal protein goes up. But it's not that valid because your body acclimates to it over time. When you get used to eating a higher protein diet, the body curtails the calcium loss from the bones. So what I'm saying right now is that having a little extra protein and calcium is beneficial if you're going to live a long time, particularly if you're a frail woman. Males are bigger and larger to begin with, but particularly for a woman, let's say her ideal weight for a 5'5" woman might be somewhere between 105 pounds and 115 pounds or something like that range or something. 100 pounds, 150, 120, something in the range, about 110 pounds. So this woman doesn't need much calories because her basal metabolic requirements are probably around 1,300 calories a day. 1,200 to 1,300 calories a day basal metabolic requirements without exercise. So if she's keeping her calories favorable in the below 1,500 calories, it requires them to eat a lot. So it requires careful planning. If you're eating more calories, but in bigger guys eating more food, but it's good to pay attention to the calcium and protein, which means not eating junk food and not eating your diet beyond all rice and potato, not a macrobiotic diet, not a starch-based, potato-based diet, not a fruit-based diet. The raw foodists, I know what the problem with a raw food diet could be if they eat too much fruit and not enough sprouted beans, nuts, and green vegetables, right? If you eat too much fruit, because fruit is out of fruits and out of vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds, and intact whole grains or sprouted grains, fruit has the lowest amount of protein. And my experience over the last 40 years is that some of the raw food fruitarians, they didn't age well because of the lack of, because you have such a high protein ability to assimilate protein in your younger years, but as your ability to assimilate protein goes down over the age of 80, or 75 or 80, you start to need more protein. And the high fruit could put them at the protein could be too low, drive the IGF-1 too low, increasing frailty and immune system suppression. Because don't forget that, our immune system peters out. We lose muscle and bone mass and we lose brain size as we age, and we can't live forever. And our brain's not going to be the same size. Our muscles are not going to be the same size. And our immune system is not going to function at a high level of function all the time till we're forever, that we're going to peter out and we're going to die of something, and so in any case, we want to retard or slow that progression. And the extra protein after the age of 70, 75 is helpful to put the beans and nuts and greens in your diet as opposed to just eating 80% of your diet from fresh fruit, which is too low, because those people I've seen over the years had more fungal infections, more risk of pneumonia, more hair loss, more nail problems, more all kinds of problems with low protein. If these raw foodists have too much fruit, they can do fine in their 30s and 40s, but they get to be their 70s and 80s, you do benefit from the extra plant proteins.
Now, is the problem like what is too much fruit? Like if somebody's eating a lot of fruit, but also eating a lot of nuts and seeds, is the problem the fruit, or that's taking up the space, or is it just that if you're eating a lot of fruit, you're not eating enough of the nuts and seeds? What's the real problem? Is it the fruit and fruit sugar, or is it you're not eating enough uh, protein, enough nuts and seeds and things like this because you focus so much on fruit?
Well, if you're eating 1,500 calories a day, obviously, I'm saying that the plant foods that are highest in protein that are linked to longer lifespan in the studies are green vegetables, beans, and nuts and seeds. Those three foods: green vegetables, legumes, and nuts and seeds. So if we take 1,500 calories and we take 1,000 calories and put it into fruit, then you only have 500 calories left for nuts and seeds, beans, and green vegetables, or vegetables in general, including mushrooms and eggplant, peppers. So that's not enough. 500 calories of beans and nuts and green vegetables is not sufficient if you took 1,000 calories from fruit. You'd be better off the other way. As you get older, you're better off holding the fruit to 500 and using the 1,000 calories left over to put beans, nuts, and seeds in. Because don't forget, your nuts and seeds are got at least 2 ounces a day for an elderly person, preferably 3 ounces a day. At 175 calories an ounce, if you're doing 3 ounces of nuts a day, what's 175 times 3? Or, we could round it off, but in any case, 7, 14, 21, 22, that's about 425. So you're getting about, let's say, 400 calories from nuts and seeds a day, right? Then you got to have, some beans in there. So you're putting in some beans and vegetables. So you want it, so you have enough room to put in another 300 to 400 calories from beans and vegetables. So that leaves you, so that's 700 calories. So maybe your calorie count could be half fruit and still get enough.
So wait, so where are
You
you
got to
getting?
be up there. You can't pick your diet. Some of these guys make their diet 80, 90% fruit,
Sure, absolutely. So where are you getting the numbers from in 1,500 calories, for example? What if somebody's going to eat more calories?
Well, that's a bigger guy doing more exercise. It depends on your size. 5'5", 5'10", so as people get bigger, their caloric requirements go up. Right. So and it's pretty clear. It goes up about 100 calories for every inch of body height. So let's say a woman who's 5 foot tall, the basal metabolic requirement is about 1,000 calories a day. A woman 5'5", the basal metabolic requirement is about 1,300. A male maybe 5'7", basal metabolic requirement about 1,500 a day. Basal metabolic is caloric needs to maintain lean body mass, but doesn't count the exercise they're doing at it on top, of course. You know what I mean?
Sure,
We could
sure.
burn off 200 or 300 calories a day with exercise. So I'm saying that Americans on the average eat 3,200 calories a day, which is, I always say, half of what we eat feeds our needs, and the other half meets the needs of our doctors. That
Sure.
excess calories shorten lifespan.
So
We want
so so you're a fan of reduced calorie diets, right? In terms of from a
we
longevity
want to
standpoint.
eat the amount. We don't want. I'm a fan of low body fat, muscles being ripped. Women have to have a body fat below 25%, males below 15%. If you're fat, you're not healthy. There's no such thing as an overweight healthy person. It's impossible. Fat cells age you. Fat cells throw out, and plenty of vegans are heavy. They're mostly fat, too fat. I go
Okay.
to conferences, I speak to groups, and they're all, they believe the nonsense spewed out to them by the plant-based gurus, telling them that once you're eating on a vegan diet, you can eat as much as you want.
Well,
That
let me
kind of
tell you
nonsense.
where, Joel, let me tell you where I'm at because I've been doing this a long time and I got a lot of questions for you that I know people are thinking about. But so I'm somebody who I started eating a Hippocrates Health Institute type of diet, with a
Mhm.
lot of sprouts and
Mhm.
not much fruit at all. But then I got into, you know, more of the natural hygiene, started eating more fruit, but continued with the Hippocrates way of going. And then I kind of went less, try to cut back on the fat and eat more, kind of like a Hippocrates diet with a little bit of fruit and still eating the sprouts. And in my research, you got the 80-10-10. So I'm trying to do low calorie, just low calorie in general because I know it's possible and I could do it. The 80-10-10 diet, I'm not uh like going to do because they get enough protein on the 80-10-10 philosophy, but the problem with that is you got to eat an exceedingly high amount of calories to reach that protein need.
And that's right, they don't get enough protein. They get enough protein for a 30 or 40-year-old, but they don't get enough protein for an 80-year-old. And that's what happens to them. Those people on the 80-10-10 degenerate when they get older. You can get your ability to assimilate protein is heightened when you're younger and decreases with aging. So it's not enough. The protein per calorie ratio is too low for as you get older
So
to
what
maintain
where do you
muscle,
get
to
where do you
maintain immune function.
sure where do you get the numbers from in terms of like what is forgetting about the 80-10 for a moment, in terms of what's considered low protein and high protein, where do you get those numbers from? And we're not talking about animal products, because you and I both know that that's not a good source of protein because of all the problems it
Right,
brings
right.
along with it. So, uh, just in general, protein, like where do you get to say 40 grams is high for a 40-year-old and then your needs go up? Where's the starting point of what's considered high or low?
Let's do the numbers. Okay, the numbers are that for most of your life, except for toddlers and the elderly and professional athletes, about 8.8 grams of protein, 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram body mass is enough. And when you're younger, that's fine. And that's based on studies of how much proteins humans need. Lots of science behind that. Americans get way more than that. They're getting double that amount. But 0.8 is about, as we get older, maybe 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. As we get elderly, for athletes or serious athletes, you want to get 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram body mass. So you can do the math.
Let's talk pounds. These kilograms is
2.2 pounds.
So 2.2 pounds. You want to get
so say a gram of protein per 2 pounds.
Okay, so when I was a teenager, when I was bodybuilding, they were like, "Oh, you want to get one gram of protein per pound of body weight."
No, it's 1 gram of protein per 2 pounds of body weight.
No, I mean when I was bodybuilding and younger,
and you can hear the carnivore, some of these carnivore communities and meat-based communities and bodybuilding communities. They tell people to get a gram of protein per pound of body weight.
Yeah,
they're telling you a 150-pound guy should weigh 150 grams of protein. That's poisonous. That's urea.
So you're saying, I mean, on average, so for every 2 pounds, get 1 gram on average, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say a guy's 150 pounds, then you want to get at least 75 grams of good plant-based protein.
Correct.
Okay, so now nuts, for example. When I was on a Hippocrates diet, I ate so many nuts, more than 2 ounces a day. My fat was high because I'm eating so many nuts. Can you overeat on nuts? Because you say 2 ounces a day, but you talk about high protein.
No, I'm saying 2 ounces a day for people who are overweight. You and I can eat, thin people burning calories can eat more than that. What about, people who are athletes and people who work physical laborers and
But how much
people
more?
Eat 4 ounces or 5 ounces of nuts a day is okay.
Even 5 ounces. I mean, I could sit and eat 2 cups of nuts with no problem. But is that too much? Where does too much come into play? When does too much come into play?
Well, in my book, it comes into play because vegetables and salad and tomatoes and peppers and sprouts and mushrooms and onions are so protective against cancer and have such longevity profile that you have no appetite left and no remaining calories to eat all the other good stuff. I want a lot of variety in the diet. I'm saying we have this unprecedented opportunity in human history to eat a wide variety of vegetables and beans and sprouts and nuts, and we can eat and different fruits that our variety is good for us, the variety of different foods. Like I don't eat one type of green vegetables, I eat 10 types of green vegetables. If your calories and nuts are going so high, how do you have the caloric room left in your diet to eat all the other things you want to eat? I want to have you know what I mean? So I'm just,
but
having a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that,
But I could eat a salad and I could easily sit and eat a cup of pistachio nuts, let's say. I could eat a whole cup of them or macadamia nuts or something.
I would like you to eat, walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds.
But any nuts, nuts in general. I could make nut dressings. I could eat a lot of nuts, I'm saying. I mean, what's considered overeating on nuts if you're not an overweight person?
That's a really difficult question. It's difficult because I'm saying I want you to eat enough vegetables. So let's say how much, and I want you to eat fruit too. Even the Women's Healthy Eating and Living study, the WHEEL study, showed that the women who ate cruciferous vegetables had the lowest rates, and vegetables had the lowest rates of breast cancer. But those who ate vegetables without fruit didn't live as long and didn't have as low rates of cancers as people who had fruit and the vegetables. Just reinforcing the fact that a variety of different foods in the diet, we have more of a food spectrum of different foods, a more wide inclusion of foods increases your immune system in later life. The point I'm making is, okay, you have so many calories you can eat each day. So let's figure out how much fruit you can eat, how many pieces of fruit. You want to have at least 3 to 5 pieces of fruit a day. So if you can have that many nuts, so let's say you 5 pieces of fruit, how many calories that is. I like people to eat, if you don't want to eat beans cooked, then eat sprouted beans.
I was going to ask you, my next question, I want to talk about legumes and sprouted and non-sprouted, but getting back to the nuts, I pretty much I have a fruit meal and a salad meal. I eat 2 meals a day, a fruit meal and a salad meal. And since I reduced nuts, I'm probably way under my protein needs, but I could simply add nuts and still eat the same.
Why don't you add some beans? Why don't you add the beans?
Well, I eat a lot of sprouted beans. I was going to ask you about beans.
That'll give you calories and protein.
Now, what has more? I mean, does cooked beans have traditionally more protein than sprouted beans?
Yes, they do. So you have to eat more sprouted beans because as the The kind because they're as it sprouts, it turns a little more into a vegetable. So the bean is concentrated like a seed. You know what I mean? Like a nut. It's more of a concentrated protein. And but you still so you got to eat a lot of. So yeah, I mean you could. I don't think that I'm not so against eating more nuts if your body fat is low. I'm not against you eating fat if your body fat's low. It's the body fat I'm against, not the dietary fat. You understand that, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
If
So
you're ripped and your body fat is, 11, 12%, or, and you're strong, then God, great. If you're overeating, then you're gonna get more fat on your body. You know what I mean?
sure, sure. And when you say fat, is the only way you would measure fat by checking somebody's how would you check somebody's body fat? I mean, obviously without looking and seeing, but if somebody's skinny, they could still have a high body fat, right?
Yeah, I got to punch them hard in the stomach, and then if I do that, I could see if they flinch. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but of course, we put them on a machine that measures their body fat. That's this. You can get these scales for $200, or I think there's some good ones out because the prices went down. Where it used to cost, 15,000 to get these machines that measure your body fat. Now you can put it in your own bathroom for $150, and they're pretty accurate.
They're
You know,
pretty accurate, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But the most accurate is a DEXA scan, but we have a new technology in our office here, and that we're opening an office here in California, in San Diego. The new technology is called an echolight, which is more accurate than a DEXA scan. It's REMS technology. It uses sound, not radiation. So it checks bone fragility, bone strength, and body and gives you a body fat analysis and muscle analysis, body composition analysis. And it's very, very accurate as far as measuring visceral fat, body fat percent. The reason why that accuracy is so important, because a person that has heart disease, you're not a person who's overweight, prone to heart disease, they're not eating healthy. The visceral fat measurement is the most powerful determinant of risk of heart attack and cancer, particularly heart disease. And if we can prove that we're lowering the visceral fat, it motivates them it's more accurate than a cardiac CT scan, which is going to see a calcium score of your heart. The visceral fat is a better indicator of cardiac death than calcium in your heart. But in any case, we can show them they're going to visceral fat's improving if they follow this diet. And we can prove to them it's getting better with accuracy. And people need that kind of motivation. They don't believe you if you say you know what I mean? Like they show them, yep, that's dangerous. Look at that body fat. Look at your visceral fat, how high that is. That's just high risk. Look at these numbers. That's. So
So
then
what's a good body fat range for somebody? 10%? What is a good body fat range?
well, we want males to have a body fat below 15%. But you're
Okay.
right. Ideally, 10 to 13% would be even better than 15%, but at least below 15%. For a female, we want them to be below 25% at a minimum. Ideally, probably 20 to 24%, but at least below 25%, right?
Okay.
My
Eh,
body fat, I'm 71. Um, my body fat, I think last time I checked it was about 12%, 11.5% body fat. And I'm in my 70s, you know what I mean?
And if somebody's suffering from uh, osteoporosis on a vegan diet, and can it be reversed if they change their diet?
No, I mean, it reverses with exercise. You can't build bone by putting food in your mouth. In other words, you lie on a couch all day long, you're not going to build bone. You got to get up there and lift weights to build bone.
But building the bone that can reverse the osteoporosis.
Yeah, we use a power plate. It's like we grab onto the power plate, which is a vibrating platform, which puts more stress on the bone, and then we grab onto these straps. So we're pulling against the straps, up against the strap, so it puts more stress on your back and your hips. And we're giving women side to side motion and semi squats, and we're reversing osteoporosis with strength training for the lower body, and of course with a good diet that has adequate calcium and protein in it too. But a good plant-based diet and makes a person's not vitamin D deficient. But it's not the food that reverses it. It's their attention to doing the exercise that reverses it. You know what I mean? They're too
Yes.
sedentary.
Yes.
Oh,
So
by the way, there's a new technology we also have in our office. We have these crazy machines. We imported this machine from Italy, which is called a lympha machine. You put this wave of this on this person's body where they have the osteoporosis, so we can check their bones. And because there's no radiation, we could check the bones on children. It's safe to check it on children because We can see kids getting, cross-country runners getting stress fractures, ballet dancers hurting them because they don't eat it healthy enough. They're eating junk food and their bones are weak and they're prone to injury. We can see weak bones in kids. So we check out the bone strength and then we can put them on a lymph machine, 12 treatments, and it builds back. It helps heal fractures, but it helps build back osteoporotic bone. So when we use the vibrating platform, the strength training, the side-to-side motions, and we have the lymph machine, the right diet, I have so many cases where we've reversed osteoporosis without drugs. The key is the drugs are insane. They cause atrial fibrillation. They can cause you to have a mid-femur fracture. They can cause osteonecrosis of the jaw. The drugs they use for osteoporosis when you go to conventional doctors are just too dangerous. And we can reverse it using natural, non-invasive
So that machine that vibrates, that's really good to prevent osteoporosis?
Yeah, it vibrates in 3 dimensions, forward, back, left, and right, up and down. And when you do exercises, you don't just stand on it. You're exercising on the machine, which puts more stress on the muscles and bones.
What about
So
rebounding? Is that good?
no, it's not giving you an impact. You got to have the impact, like jogging in place, skipping, running, swimming and rebounding and biking doesn't build bone as much because you're not getting any impact.
What about jumping rope?
Yes, jumping rope is great.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So what, Joel, somebody's watching this and they're concerned or interested, they're on a vegan diet. What are the blood tests to check to see? What's the protein test to check? What's the vitamin? So vitamin D, calcium, protein. These are, if they want to get a blood test, what should they get?
Okay. The answer is no. That the protein in your blood doesn't go down until you're really super deficient or you have cancer or some serious ailment. You can still have the protein in your bloodstreams look perfect and you're still getting relatively too low protein. It's not a good indicator. And calcium in the blood doesn't show your calcium needs either. If your calcium was low in your blood, it's probably because your protein's too low and your calcium binding proteins are low because your diet is inadequate. So for the blood to show a deficiency, you're too deficient, you're really bad, or the blood's not going to show it. You know what I mean? So what I do want people to test in their blood is their omega-3 index. That's what they should be following to make sure they get an omega-3 index above 6, because that's the primary cause. Remember, I said earlier when we started this show that I've been saying for years that all these natural hygienists and raw foodists, what did they die of? What did Shelton die of? What did Kiki Sidwa die of? What did Alec Burton die of? Parkinson's, not cancer, not heart attacks, Parkinson's. Linked to, and what causes Parkinson's? Chemicals, paraquat, rotenone, trichloroethylene, chemicals how did these healthy eating diet get? It's because when you're omega-3 fatty acid deficient, and I have a lot of studies come out this last year showing these toxins go up in the bloodstream. You can't detoxify from neurotoxins when your omega-3 index is low. And we saw it in the 7-Day Adventist Health Study too. The vegans had a 37% increased risk of Parkinson's over the people who are not vegan, the non-vegetarian group. And you should see eating more fruits and vegetables, eating a healthy diet lowers Parkinson's risk. More junk food increases it. Why should vegans have less? We would expect vegans to have less dementia, less strokes, and less Parkinson's because they eat healthier. But they have more because the omega-3 index deficiency discombobulates everything and derails the body's ability to remove chemical toxins that compete for the brain. So the blood test to get is the omega-3 index to see if you should adjust your supplements or your diet at all, to see if you can fix your omega-3 index, because the risk for a vegan is Parkinson's and dementia if they're going to live a long time. And
absolutely, absolutely. And everybody, I did a whole episode with Joel about this, so I'm going to put the link below to this.
And at that point, we didn't even have the data from the 7-Day Adventist Health Study 2 showing the 37% increase of Parkinson's in vegans. Because people would say to me, well, there's no increased risk of Parkinson's in vegans compared to non-vegans. And I'd say, it doesn't matter if there's no difference. We shouldn't have anybody getting Parkinson's. That would be my argument, right? I'd say it wouldn't matter because why should there be any Parkinson's in a vegan if they're eating so healthily? We should be beating out the non-vegans by a mile because they're eating all this junk food. But we're not. And the facts are, I was wrong. It's not. And the other part, everybody's wrong. The vegans do have much higher risk of Parkinson's, which is a shame because we're eating so healthily. Why should we get Parkinson's? Because we got to get the omega-3 index checked. That's the most important number to check.
And
your vitamin D. I mean, your vitamin D, the chance of a vitamin D deficiency is pretty slim. You know, I mean, we're all getting sunshine. We're eating, our supplements have it in it, but you can be vitamin D deficient, but it's not as common. What I'm saying, the omega-3 index, the omega-3 deficiency is the most common deficiency in vegans.
Well, is this a long-term thing? Let's say somebody has an omega-3 deficiency long-term, and then let's say they start taking your supplement, your vegan omega-3 supplement, and then it comes back to where it should be on the test.
Right.
Are they okay now, or is it something that has a
No,
long-term effect?
that's the problem. You hit it on the nail. There's a recent study came out. It showed personalized. It went all to all the data and went through read 38 studies, and there's great literature that came out the last 2 years. It shows that it takes decades. That's the problem. It takes decades of being in the right index to protect the brain from shrinkage and from Parkinson's. You can't just wait till you have symptoms. People say, "Oh, I feel fine. I'm not depressed. I don't need anything to
Yeah.
take. I'm great the way I am now." But that doesn't mean anything, because you have to have the right to protect against these diseases in later life. You have to have the right level in your brain and in your body for decades, 10, 20, 30 years. You can't wait till you're
Now, on
80
the
to start taking these to fix this thing.
omega-3 supplement, the oil comes in this little gel cap.
No,
So
not in mine.
yours is liquid?
Mine is liquid with a dropper.
Liquid with a dropper. But on the ones that it does come in a gel cap, is that gel cap, by doing the massive amount of supplements over the years, is there any side effects you think to that to digestion that cell cap so much over the years?
I don't know. I don't think it's the gel cap that's bad. I think why we make ours and why we make it different is we want people to taste it. We don't want people, and because we keep ours refrigerated. It's the rancidity of fat supplements that are bad. And the rancidity, because it has to do with how many months they stayed at room temperature out of the refrigerator from the date of manufacture. When you buy a product in a health food store or from on the internet, it's hard to know when that was manufactured and whether that's been sitting at room temperature for a year or two or a year and a half.
What we're told is, isn't the gel cap supposed to slow down the acidity of it?
It might slow it down, but it doesn't prevent it. It's still at room temperature. The oils are at room temperature. We analyze those. We analyze it. We've analyzed them over the years and analyzed them and showed more TBA scores, more rancidity scores, proportional to the months kept at room temperature.
Now, would the result of the fish oil determine if it was rancid or not? So, like, if the oil was rancid, does that mean it's not going to raise some of these omega-3s, or it still can?
It probably still can, but not as much. And also, there's some side effects of taking rancid oils. I mean, they're not good for you to take rancid compounds. The whole point is that our body becomes rancid. We have lipid peroxidase in our own cells that become more rancid when you don't take in enough antioxidants from your diet, and you don't have a good balance of omega-3 on the cell membranes. I'm saying the four main determinants of longevity are nutrient diversity and density of the cell, the toxicity of the cell, how much toxins are there, and of course, the omega-3 index, or the fatty acid balance on the cell membrane, right? All these things play a role. Of course, there's other things we're talking about, other determinants of health. And the fourth one, most important things, which we mentioned already, is body fat percent. However, you've got to be lean. And if you're not lean, you're not going to have a high nutrient density in your cells anyway. And the other determinants like sleep, exercise, happiness, peace in your life, right? Emotional poise, regular exercise and
Sure.
activity. So there's emotional factors regarding good health too, and psychological factors and rest and sleep and good relationships with other people, and all these things that play a role. But out of the main nutritional determinants, there, obviously, getting high levels of nutrients and high diversity of nutrients, and having no one nutrient you're low in. You could be the healthiest person in the world, low body fat, healthiest diet in the world. If you're B12 deficient, it's going to catch up with you. It's going to kill you.
Sure.
Deficient in
Now,
one thing, you're going to be in trouble.
if you're what's the role, especially in young men who are vegans, what's the role of testosterone with the protein? Is there a connection with low protein and low testosterone? What is there a connection with that on vegan diets at all?
Well, not really. There's a connection between low muscle mass and low testosterone, high body fat and low testosterone. You build testosterone to the most favored level by having muscles, right? By having some muscles on your body. The muscles. So you build when your body fat is lower and you're working out, you have better testosterone. That's why we exercise. We lift weights. It helps keep our testosterone good.
And when you're talking about working out, so everyone knows there's different types of working out. There's running, cardiovascular, but then there's muscle building and there's core exercises. And some of everything is great, but the thing a lot of people are missing is the muscle building exercise, especially as they get older. People tend to shy away from that. Is that correct?
Correct. I agree.
Yeah. So, so this is such important. So you don't care if somebody's on a vegan diet, as long as the vegan source, where the protein is coming from, as long as they're meeting the numbers that they should be getting. Is that a good statement?
No, I want the protein to come from plants, not from animal
Well,
products.
no, I'm
Oh,
saying
they're
somebody
on
on
a
a
vegan
vegan
diet.
diet, you don't care
Okay.
where on a vegan diet they're getting it, as long as they're able to reach their numbers without raising their body fat. That's
Yeah.
the goal. And your
Wheat germ
diet
is
is,
high in wheat germ's high in protein, for example. You know, they could have
yeah,
protein from a lot of hemp seeds are super high in protein.
yeah.
Peas and soybeans are great high in protein.
So tell me, somebody who's a raw food, somebody who wants to be all raw, and there aren't many people out there who are all raw, but somebody who wants to be all raw, is it in your mind feasible? And give an example of how somebody on an all raw diet can meet their needs protein wise.
Well, if they're on an all raw diet, then they got to eat a lot of sprouts, a lot of sprouted beans to get the protein needs up. So I don't see they can because the raw food is eat too many fruits, usually too much fruit and avocado. Too much fruit, avocado, and nuts. They're not getting enough vegetables in because how much salad can you eat? The salad is low in calories. So they got to get something in addition to the salad in there. They got to eat a lot of greens, but they should eat the solid salad stuff like raw broccoli too. Chew up the raw, and I guess you can eat artichokes and asparagus raw, right? You can eat all that stuff raw. But I think the addition of when if you want to be all raw, you have to sprout legumes I think to make the diet increase the dietary quality.
So, what's your opinion of the Hippocrates Health Institute style diet? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
So what's your opinion of that? Because they're high sprouts. That's a major part of their diet. When I go there, and it's where I got started, they have this big display and they tell everyone, focus on the sprouts. And then they have a little nice recipe and they say, put a little of that on your plate for taste. And most people do it backwards. They eat the recipe and they put a little sprouts. But the goal is to put a lot of sprouts and a little bit of the raw recipe there. But what's your understanding or idea of the Hippocrates diet? Would you feel that this is a good way if you're going to do a raw diet?
Yeah, I guess so. My problem with it is, and this is just opinion.
Sure,
Is that it's for most people, it's not sustainable. They'll go there, they'll eat that way, and they go home, they gain the weight back. They're not going to stick with it. It's too strict. By adding beans and bean burgers and cooked broccoli with garlic and mushrooms and stuff and vegetable bean soup, by adding cooked foods, you increase the probability the person's going to stay on a healthy diet. It's too few percent of people will stay on a diet that restrictive. And
sure.
then so they stay there, they go eat for a while, they get healthier. It's good for them, sure. But then they're going to go home and gain the weight back. And then it's no benefit if you just did it for a short period of time.
That's
You have,
what is
yeah.
mind-boggling to me, Dr. Fuhrman, is I do this. I sprout, and it's
Mhm.
just easiest process, but it sounds so complicated, but it's so easy to do. I do it in my house, and it's so simple.
Okay.
And
I sprout too.
yeah,
Doug Evans at the
Doug
Sprouting.
Evans, yeah, I know him for a very long time.
I have my sprout machines there, and he's making some bigger ones too. Yeah, it's great it's fun to make your own food. But we're
But it's
growing food,
easy. It's
sprouting food.
easy. It's not even complicated.
It's easy for sure. It's easy.
Yeah,
Nevertheless, people don't want to just eat so much sprouts and so little by taking the cooked food out of the diet or taking the ability to eat beans and cooked vegetables out. For most people, it's lowering the percent of green vegetables they're going to eat because they're not going to eat salad, 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 and chew all the broccoli and asparagus and all the green vegetables. You give them cooked vegetables, they eat more green vegetables. So you increase the calcium and protein in their diet, but give them by cooking the vegetables because they'll eat more vegetables that way.
if
More
somebody's juicing,
vegetables.
are they getting the protein?
No, they're not.
They're not.
Yeah.
What's your opinion about the protein powders, the vegan protein powders?
They could be helpful for an elderly person or a frail lady or have a professional athlete, but most of us don't need it because if we're really choosing the right foods on our diet, we'll get enough protein without it. But there could be some people who don't thrive on a vegan diet who could use a little extra protein, especially. We got to watch them as their age, that they're not getting too weak or they're not getting too frail or their IGF-1's not getting too low. So I mean, there are some people who could benefit from that.
Sure. I like personally eating 2 times a day, but if I'm not able to reach my protein needs on 2 times a day, would you think it'd be helpful to eat a third time a day or a fourth time a day, or is it better to eat less often and just change the amounts of what I'm eating in my meals?
It has to do with your caloric needs, because for a woman whose caloric needs are low, they can eat 700 calories a meals and eat 2 times a day. But if, let's say, you're LeBron James and you need 4,000 calories a day, we don't want people eating a 2,000 calorie meal. It's too much calories at one time to put in the stomach. It'll stretch out the
Sure.
stomach. If you're eating till fullness, you're not going to digest it as efficiently. We want efficient digestion. So we don't want to eat more than, I don't think people should eat more than 700 calories at a time. The diet we feed people at the retreat to lose weight is always between 400 and 500 calories a meal. So for a woman whose caloric needs are really low, about 1,200 calories or lower, she can eat 2 meals a day. But as you go up to more caloric needs, we'd rather them eat even 3 meals a day, because we don't want them to eat too much food at one time, which then impairs digestive efficiencies. People eat till they're stuffed and they just digesting food for so many hours. They're digesting food half the night. I know for me, for example, it was my wife's birthday, and I went and I made an ice cream. I took bananas and I mixed it for the birthday. I put macadamia nuts in. I put soy milk, frozen bananas, real vanilla bean powder. I made this delicious banana ice cream. So that night I overate. I ate like too much ice cream after my meal. I was up in the middle of the night. I was up till like 12 midnight, still digesting the damn meal because I ate so much food. The point I'm making is, when you overeat even relatively healthy stuff, it's going to take too long to digest the meal. You're going to have reflux and discomfort and inefficient digestion. We don't want to make the meals too big. So people of a higher caloric need, they need 3 meals rather than 2 meals. With a lower caloric need, you can do 2 meals a day.
But is the caloric need based on somebody's body weight, or could it be based on someone's preference?
No, the caloric, it's not their preference. They can't prefer more calories. If they prefer more calories, they'll be overweight. If
But if
they're
they
overweight,
could
they're
they
eating too
prefer
many
less
calories.
though? Could they prefer less? Like people can I fasted for 30 days. I had more energy on the 30th day of the fast than the first day. I mean, you don't need to eat a lot to have energy.
Well, everybody's eating too much food, for sure. People, that's what I'm saying. People are eating about 3,000 calories a day, and I'm eating a lower caloric load too. I mean, I only need like 1,500 to 1,600 calories a day. I'm eating 3 meals, 500 calories each. You would think a 5'9", 150-pound male would require more protein. My buddies who go skiing with it, and I go to play tennis with, eat more calories than me. But I'm doing fine on lower calorie, and I'm not losing any weight. As long as I'm not getting too thin, I'm not losing weight and dropping my weight. I'm keeping my muscle mass. I'm not losing, so I'm okay with my lower caloric intake. It's better to have your metabolism adjust to a lower caloric intake, so you can take in less calories. But people can be anorexic too if they start to get too frail or too weak, or they're eating too low calories. It's the art, right? It's an art and a science to pick out the right calories for each of us. That the most favored caloric level for you and me. You know the best for you. I know the best for me. Everybody's got to know the best level of calories for them. But they just eat everything. But most people don't try to figure out what's best for them and what's the best body size, what's the healthiest. They just keep eating all day long based on they recreate with food all day and they get too much calories in.
So if somebody's exercising and they got good strength, they got good muscles, but they're not meeting that half gram of protein per calorie or per body weight, pound of body weight. Uh, I mean, is this a concern? Like you're saying you get 75, you're saying, from what I hear you saying you're teaching, is most people on their vegan diets are getting between 20 and 40 grams of protein without doing the numbers and counting. They don't do it. That's what they're getting. And your Nutritarian diet, you can easily get 80 grams if they're following your diet.
For 1,500 calories, they can get about 75 grams of protein. So we're getting about 50 grams of protein per 1,000 calories, right? I'm saying that's ideal, but particularly for toddlers and the elderly. You can get less protein and still maintain muscle mass, fine if you're younger. But as we get older, people lose muscle and get frail, so we better to pump the protein up and have a better protein bioavailability to follow my recommendations, because protein matters for most people when they get old, because they get weaker. They
But
need more.
exercise precedes that, right? Because if they eat the protein and they're not exercising, it's not really helping them. But if they're exercising but doing less protein, would that be better off?
I'm not sure of the question. Certainly, we want people to strength train as they get older. We want people to sleep and to exercise and to have emotional wisdom, and we want them to eat healthy. We want all these to do everything right. But I'm not sure what you just asked me.
So if you got the person that's eating a good amount of protein, but they're not exercising, that's a problem.
Yes, of course.
But if they're eating, if they're exercising a good amount, but they're not meeting those protein numbers that you're suggesting or that you're getting,
Right.
is that an issue if they're exercising a good amount, but they're not reaching those protein numbers in terms of building strength and muscle?
Yes, it's not going to build strength and muscle, especially as they age and they get over 70 and their blood and their protein bioavailability and digestibility goes down. There might be some people that can be an exception to the rule, but most of us are not going to be as strong as we were when we were younger. And then I'm trying to maintain my strength and do dips and pull-ups and push-ups and contain my and still be able to do the stuff when I was younger. And the
Sure.
extra protein as you get older helps us to do that. You can see if you're getting much weaker, maybe you should be follow if you're eating a little extra fruit and your protein's a little lower and you're younger and you're still just as strong, you're probably okay. But if you're getting older and you feel you're getting weaker and losing your how many chins you can do and how many push-ups you can do, and you feel like you're probably better off watching what I'm saying than and increasing your protein a little. Follow my
Gotcha. Now,
recommendation.
with protein, here's an important question we get, the essential amino acids, because if you're getting a good amount of protein, but you're not getting a good balance of those essential amino acids, are you doing something wrong? Do you have to fix something?
No, you're not going to get if you're eating beans, nuts, and seeds and green vegetables, you're getting all the essential amino acids, plenty of these, everyone. The fact that it's relatively low in methionine is a good one because we want it to be relatively low in methionine because that's the amino acid that promotes cancer cells to replicate the most.
Should a person know eat a few Brazil nuts to get that up, or it's not necessary?
No, they can. Yes, I want people to eat a few Brazil nuts a week, but not because of that reason. Just to get a little extra selenium is good.
Okay, okay. So as long as it's low, and I mean it's low, it's not as a concern. They're still getting their essential amino acids as long as they're eating that good variety of what you suggest in a Nutritarian diet.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so you're saying I have a choice, me personally, or people in my situation. It's like, hey, add some cooked beans or do a lot more of the sprouted legumes.
Correct.
Okay. And would I just look at a paper and look at the numbers on the paper and decide how much more I need to do, or do I just add some more?
Nah, you don't have to measure it. There's a big range of what's normal. You're feeling good, your weight's down, your strength is up. Just try to keep in mind what I'm saying, that it's good variety is better for you. It's better to eat a variety of different foods and not have your diet be so narrow. And watch that you don't eat too much fruit that you keep you because too much fruit can keep your as we age, can keep our protein on the low side. So, those people advocating 80-10-10 with fruit-based diets, they can thrive when they're younger, but if they get older, they get in trouble because their diet's low in protein. We want to have more fat and protein in, so it's not 80% carbohydrate. It's more like 20-20-60. You know what I mean?
Now, when
It's
you say that, it makes sense what you're saying, but the advocates of that diet, they seem to have a great amount of strength, and some of them are older, and they seem to be doing okay. So they're not hitting the warning signs that you're talking about. So, what would you say to that? To confirm it with your blood work? What would you say? Because they feel great, their strength might be doing pretty good as they're getting older. So
Yeah.
what would
Just,
you
I'd say that's as I've seen, been taking care of the vegan community for almost 35, 40 years, and it's not my observation. I've seen a lot of these raw foodists get into trouble and even die of pneumonia. So there's some people that can do well, and obviously there's always, I'm talking about, we want to give people recommendations that everybody thrives on, not just some people thrive on. And just because some people can do well with it, I still would not recommend it. There's too many people who don't thrive on it. And I'm talking about really careful people who ate that diet really carefully. One guy who was following that type of diet, because he was such a philosophical anti-medicine natural hygienist, he got to me too late. He came to me with pneumonia, and he wasn't taking an antibiotic for pneumonia. He was too bad. I had to send him right to the emergency room, and he died in the emergency room of pneumonia. He died in the emergency room. He was not even an old guy. He was young, relatively. He's like in his 60s, I think. He died of pneumonia. Um,
so what
so
I
I've
he- what
seen
I
a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people struggle with issues because on that type of diet. So because some people could thrive on it, good for them. But I know what recommended as a general rule for people, the chance of it's too risky.
what I hear you saying is, if I'm correct, is there are different ways to eat a raw food diet or just a vegan diet in general. And when it comes to raw food specifically, there's the 80-10-10, and then there's the Hippocrates kind of philosophies. and the natural hygiene, and these can work, but it's risky. But the way you're suggesting it in your diet is the safest way for people to eat a vegan diet based on all the information you've gathered. Is that what you'll say? That these other diets can work, but they're risky. But the way you're recommending people do it is the safest and most practical way to eat a vegan diet. Is that a good way to sum it up?
The safest and most practical way for most people. I'm not saying the Hippocrates way isn't good either. That's another good way because they're more raw and more sprouts, but I'm saying that way is not as practical and not as many people want to do it that way. But that's also a way that's probably adequate because they're not giving you excess fruit. They're giving you excess sprouts to take over the extra fruit, and they're sprouting a lot of legumes, which they're not, and they're giving you nuts and seeds. They're just reducing the fruit down.
Like
So not
tremendously.
like
They don't
fruit,
even
but
recommend fruit for people that have cancer and stuff like that. They don't recommend fruit at all.
right. So I don't agree with that. But in any case, I'm saying their high intake of sprouts could make that diet acceptable. But most people don't want to be, that strict unless,
On a diet like that, where would they get their omega-3s from?
well, this is the thing. Some people have enough of the delta 6 desaturate enzyme to make enough omega-3 fatty acids from the flax seeds and green vegetables, but most people can't make enough. And we're talking about getting a level above 6 or 7 or 8, getting to a high enough level. So unless you know your level, unless you've checked it in your blood, you can't just assume eating that way gives you a good enough level. So the answer is most of the people need to take supplements to get their level, their omega-3 index in the most favored range. So could take a vegan-based supplement.
And is there a test or something to see if you have that uh, way where you don't need the supplements, or
Yes, the omega-3 index. You see your numbers.
oh,
That's
I
what
could see the
yeah.
numbers, but you're saying some people
If your number's above 6, you're not supplementing. You're okay. What if your level was 7 or 8 and you weren't taking a supplement? And you don't need a supplement because your level's 7 or 8.
gotcha, gotcha. Hey, last question before we sum this all up is your the omega-3 supplement you have. If somebody was taking the ones you said it shouldn't make a big difference if they were taking the ones that come in the capsules with the side effects from having too many of those capsules. Does that just dissipate in the body? What happens to that? Is that considered a food or a nutrient, or what is that that they encapsulize the oil in?
The capsule, I'm not sure. It depends on the capsule. I think it's made of potato starch or some kind of vegetable gum, matter. It's just a small amount of something. It's probably not a significant risk factor for anything. They're just, you don't need it to eat it, but you're just not going to kill them to take the capsule.
Now, when you decided to have yours, you wanted people to smell and taste the oil. Oh,
Mhm.
is that why you decided not to put them in the capsules?
Yes, that's one of the reasons is because you can taste the freshness, and also we wanted to pack it in glass to keep it in dark glass to keep it fresher. So we felt the refrigerating dark glass. Also, we want people to measure the dose, and the dose is based on their blood test, so they can take the exact dose that's right for them based on their blood test results, so they can measure it out. You know what I mean? Because every person just taking the same amount of capsules. This doesn't make any sense. They got to take the amount of capsules based on their need, based on the blood test.
Sure, sure. And how often do you recommend somebody get that blood test?
Well, let's say you're taking my supplement, you're taking a whole dropper full every day. Well, you got to wait 4 months for the red blood cells to stabilize to see if that level is going to reflect, the blood test is going to reflect what you're taking. You get it in 4 months and you find your level is low. It came back at 4.5. Okay, it's not that terrible, but it should be above 6. So then you up the supplement and you take now 2 droppers instead of 1 dropper, but you got to give it 4 or 5 months and you take it again and your level is 6.8, and that's good. Okay, my level is 6.8. It's not too high, not too low. I can stay with taking the 2 droppers a day for the next 5 years before I take my blood again. So you take your blood to make sure you adjust the dose and then wait 4 months to take the test to make sure the level is right where you want it. Once you get it in the perfect level, then you can take it, then you don't have to check it again for 5 years or so, see if you're still in the same range.
Wonderful, wonderful. And soybeans, do you recommend tofu and tempeh as the soybeans and just in a different form, or do you just say stick to the whole bean is just by themselves?
Tempeh is fermented soybean. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't usually eat it because, I can't find it with no additives. Like there's salt in it They add like rice, this stuff into it. I can't find just plain tempeh with organic soybeans. You know what I mean? There's too many other things they add to it. So I say I don't bother with it. I just don't even eat it. But nothing wrong with it getting a clean tempeh, fermented soybeans. But I can't find the brands where I would like them, which brand I like.
And
Um,
tofu's
so,
fine? You do
yeah, I
tofu?
use tofu and soy milk, but not huge amounts. But I do eat edamame and soybeans. I take a big bunch of soybeans in the Instant Pot, and I cook the soybeans, keep them in my refrigerator, put some soybean and other bean on my salad or in my soup or something, you know. So I do eat soybeans, and I eat a lot of tofu. I like to dehydrate the tofu, take the extra firm tofu, put a tomato sauce, garlicky tomato sauce, a little maybe Thai curry in there, and then I make this great sauce, and I slice the tofu very thin, put it in my dehydrator racks, put it at 130 degrees for 24 hours, and I make like tofu pizza jerky. It comes out like hard as a rock, you know, and you can like chew on the tofu pieces. It's like a lot of fun to eat, like
Sure.
rubbery. It's very rubbery, you know.
Ha
Um,
have you heard of natto?
yeah, I've heard of natto.
Do
Yeah,
you do that?
I don't, but I know, you know, I haven't really done that. Have you? Do you like that?
When I'm able to get it, I love it, but I'm not able to get it. But
No,
but it's I guess it's not raw because it's fermented, so it's still fermented beans. But it
I
has
don't know. I think they're cooked and then fermented. They're,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, it has vitamin BK, I believe in it. Vitamin K. It
and
has
K, yeah, vitamin K2.
one of the vegan sauces that actually has it, but it's not easy to obtain. They sell
Right.
it, but yeah. So your information that you're giving me here, I know you don't like meet with people one on one, but you have a club where people can go through your club and they can join that and they can get this information more accessible to them, other than your great videos that you have all the time. But how can people join your club and what does it offer to people?
Yeah, it's a membership to the website at drfuhrman.com. You know, so and they come there and they if they join at the membership level, they could just, you know, in the forums, ask questions, watch my master class and get, you know, community to support them. But if they join the membership at the level where they have the ability to ask, not just read the Ask the Doctor forum, but actually ask me questions, then which is about like I think $90 a month, where they can actually ask me their personal questions all the time. They have access to me, and I answer questions a few hours a day. I'm answering people's personal questions about their health and problems. So yes, I can. People can access me and get my personalized help and input on what they're doing by joining the drfuhrman.com membership site.
By doing that, did I get any discounts or anything on your supplements?
Yes, they get a discount on all the supplements too. If they join at the low membership fee without the ability to ask me questions, they still get all the discounts on the supplements as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, anything else you want to add? It was a great discussion. I think you answered a lot of people for a lot of people
Yeah, we
out
did.
there.
This is a lot of information. It's a long time. I think we did plenty.
Yes, very good, very good. Well, thank you. If anyone else has more questions, please post them below, and we'll have Dr. Furman on again in the future and answer those questions. And Dr. Furman, thank you again so much for your time today.
Good luck to all of you.
Okay.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show.